much care for radio play country, but people who do, that's okay. I don't have to like it. Everybody has to have their own thing. Guys, we're going to finish up Chapter 5 today, and just a reminder, I don't think that affects anybody here. I think you've all got your Chapter 4 exercises in. In fact, I'm finished grading for everything that got submitted. I asked a couple of people to resubmit, but just check on your Canvas. We're going to start off today, however, with a little video. Are any of you guys fans of TED Talks at all? I love them. And I was looking for one on motivation, and I found one that I really like. This is what motivates people, what makes people happy at work, what makes them want to stay with companies. And we're going to take the first 3 minutes of class to watch this because I really like the way that... What do you think about the point about giving employees more responsibility? How does giving employees responsibility and credit factor into happiness? Yes? Well, and I agree with you. Like, putting yourself in that position as an employee, how does that translate to your happiness? Yeah, it makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we matter, that we're there. What about the point, for example, I love the idea that we say that we trust and value our employees, but then we're going to make you jump through 15 steps to do something simple like purchase a laptop. What message is that sending to the employee if we're making them offer those kinds of moves? What message are we sending?
It would make it seem like you don't really trust them.
Yeah.
And you could say, like, actions speak louder than words, so you could tell somebody you trust them, and if you're making them like go through such a long process, it doesn't show a lot of trust.
Well, and it's almost at some level, like, have you ever felt within, I'm sorry, Lucia, did you have your hand up too?
No.
Oh. I almost feel like sometimes, let me turn this into a question. Do you ever feel like in an organization, whether it was a class, or whether it was athletics, or whether it was a job, where you had a great idea and ended up getting punished for it? Have you ever had that experience? Let me explain it to you. Let's say, for example, you had an idea for how you could change your organization, how you could make something better, how you could actually improve the organization, and yet when you brought it up, the person you brought it up to, whether it was your supervisor, your coach, your coworker, ended up assigning you so much work, it almost felt like the lesson you learned was don't come up with new ideas. In other words, yes, I like your idea, but you're going to have to do all these things and go through all these steps to be able to make this become a reality. When we punish people with paperwork, when we punish them with too many layers of accountability, ultimately what you do is disincentivize ideas. Sooner or later, you quit speaking up because if you realize your idea just means you're going to have more work thrown at you, what's the point, right? Well, let me ask you guys. I know we talked about this a bit in the last class, and I know we've got a small group here today. What do you predict in your first jobs are going to be the things that keep you at those jobs? If I were a person hiring you in my company, you guys just graduated from St. Francis, what would I have to do to keep you? What would keep you in a particular job? Yes?
If I knew that there was room for promotion or advancement in the company.
So I have to provide a path forward so there's a way that you can move ahead. And you know what goes along with that, too? With Sarah's point, she wants to be able to move ahead. That means me as a manager, I better have a performance management system so I can actually evaluate people and give them a clear path forward, and give them direction. What else is going to matter to you? What else is going to keep you at your first job? Yes?
The work environment, so like if a lot of people are unhappy, and like it just makes everyone else miserable too, and so like you want to be in like a happier environment.
Unhappy people make other unhappy people, don't they? Or I should say, make other people unhappy. I agree with that point. You got to have a positive work environment. What else? I think I saw another hand up. What else was going to keep you at that first job? Morale, like recognition, the idea of creating a positive work environment, all these things. And the reason that retention is such a big deal, and I know this is a little bit of a repeat from the last class, we're right now at such a low level of unemployment. It's really hard to keep people if you don't treat them well. So if you want to keep your quality performers and keep your company operating, you got to figure this retention thing out. Now, there are some things that we tend to believe about retention. A lot of people believe that money is the main reason that somebody goes from one company to the other. And I'm not going to lie, that does happen. There are certain people, for example, or certain professions that are very money-centric. And if that's the reason you leave a company, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's wrong to be motivated by money. We all know our own personal motivations. I will say, though, if we go back to the stats, go back to what we know about your generation so far, you guys are less concerned about money than my generation was. I'm a Gen Xer, and we were very much into making as much bank as we could. Why are you guys less concerned about money than my generation? What is it that's different about the way you guys view the world than the way my generation did? Yes? Fame, like the idea of recognition. I like that. I think that's very true. Why is that true for your generation as opposed to mine?
Because when you have fame, it's like you have followers, so essentially you can use that to get you money.
And it's so funny, like when I was your age, if you said you had a follower, somebody thought you were being stalked. It was a whole different thing. Follower meant, man, this is getting creepy. And these days, followers make money. What else is different in your attitude and approach toward the world than mine? Not necessarily mine, but my generation's. What do you guys value more than money? Yes? Yeah, happiness, experience. If we look at what your generation is spending money on, you guys are spending money on dining out. You guys are spending money on trips. You're spending money on doing things, not necessarily owning things. And there's this big thing that comes into play with your generation. When I say this, I don't mean to be sounding judgmental. The stats just back it up. You guys are putting more time into creating a work-life balance and a life you enjoy. You're working to live, not living to work. My generation was obsessed with big cars, big houses, and big bank accounts. And here's the other trick, too. My generation, by and large, are the parents of your generation. What did many of you experience in 2008? Maybe not you directly, but you know somebody who probably did. What happened in 2008? Anybody know? We had the unemployment rate skyrocket because of that to about 12%. So a lot of people watched their parents lose their jobs. A lot of people watched their parents struggle financially, and that made a psychological impact. And I want you guys to agree or disagree. If you disagree with what I'm saying, please, or if you agree with me, tell me I'm hitting pay dirt, because this is my personal theory. I think that you guys grew up realizing that maybe people were putting their money in the wrong places and saying, instead of valuing all these things, let's make a little less money. Let's have a little bit more time in our lives. Let's be flexible. And at the end of the day, let's get jobs that let us be able to have some flexibility and enjoy happiness because of what we saw our parents go through. Is that a fair statement? Or am I wrong or am I right? What do you think? Yeah.
I think that, I grew up watching my parents, work every day, put so much time and effort into things, and, we as a family didn't get to do, vacations all that often, so I think it kind of made me, want to do all that type of stuff even more because it was so important to me. Whenever we did get to do it, it was, so much fun and such an experience that I think that kind of,
I think it did too. Does anybody agree or disagree with Sarah? Is that on point? Yes.
I agree. Just if one of your parents lost their job, it would be more likely to bring your family together. First of all, the parent would be home more, so it'd be more time with the kids. But also when someone struggles, you need a support system. And so I think it would put somebody who was younger, it would put it into perspective how important family is and having that separation of work and home.
It's amazing how that has shaped your worldview. Everything we experience shapes the way we see the world. We are a product of our past. And the way I don't know if any of you ever had to read George Orwell, 1984, but there's a line in that book that still rings true. He who controls the past controls the future. And what that meant is he who controls the future controls the past. It means that how we perceive the world is shaped by where we come from and what we do. And I think that makes sense here. My generation, Gen X, they referred to us as latchkey kids. We came from households, we were one of the first generations. We were the first generation where predominantly both parents worked. And as a result, we were coming home to empty houses and largely raised by television. So if you want to know why my generation has such an affinity for television, it's because for many of us that was our parents. I'm not saying that I was there, but yes.
I can definitely back it up because my grandparents lived through the Great Depression and they're so thrifty and like they, I don't know, like they don't buy stuff for themselves at all. Like they only worry about like food and if they go out to eat, it's like they have a gift card. Like that's they do not do anything. Like
Yeah, it's
definitely made an impression on them.
if you ever meet somebody, for example, these families that lived through the Holocaust and World War II, they have very similar kinds of approaches. I'll never forget this because my grandmother was the same way. My grandmother never threw anything out. If she had, grandma candies, because you know what I'm talking about. All of our grandparents have those grandma candies. You know, the big tins of hard candy where you try to pull one piece out, it comes out one big piece, and it all sort of has assumed the same general flavor. It's a combination of like cherry, licorice, and root beer barrels. You know what I'm talking about. Or how about circus peanuts? You guys know what those are, right? They're the nastiest candy ever. And there's going to be a bag of those things that's been in there for 12 years, and your grandmother is still taking one out at a time, and they're not throwing them out as long as they're still edible. That butter mints, that's like grandma candy too. You're laughing. Am I right? Where do you even buy these things? Is there like this secret grandma store where you go in and it's like you knock on this back door and you get some ribbon candy? Is that the way this works? Anyway, my point is, let's get back on point. You've got to retain people in ways beside money because the current generations are not just motivated by money. The other thing too, guys, the way that we hire and the way we retain have to be tied together. If you give somebody false information and you pull them into your company with big promises that you can't deliver on, then your hiring and retention are not aligned. You're not going to keep those awesome people you pulled in. There used to be this adage, for example, back in the 90s when the internet was getting big, the biggest company in the internet was called Cisco. Has anybody ever heard of Cisco before? They're a huge, huge company. If you guys use the internet, you're touching Cisco every day, whether or not you realize it. If you work for a technology company and somebody paid for your Cisco training, that was like getting gold. That was like somebody paying for a college degree for you. What a lot of people believe, if you train this person on Cisco routers, for example, internet routers, they're just going to leave for another company. That's not necessarily true. The other thing too, whenever your organization is going through a downsizing or your organization is going through some kind of transition, you still got to try to retain your high performers. No matter what, you've got to try to keep people. So what keeps people in your company? If somebody likes the organization, they like the people that are managing it, they like the way the company is managed. If you like informal types of agreements, for example, you would love working at St. Francis. We're a very informal place. Some people like a more formal type of management that will keep them. What kind of relationship do you have with the person who ultimately tells you what to do? I tell you this 200%. If I have a problem, I can walk into John Miko's office or Randy Fry's office, and they will listen to me. I have a great relationship with my supervisor, which very much improves the way I feel about my job. Rewards, that can be if you get paid well, but other rewards could be, for example, I love it. The best reward we can get as a teacher isn't my paycheck, is not my promotion. When I have a student email me 2 years after they graduated to tell me that what I taught them in class made sense and was true. I had students who were emailing me to talk about the Batman movie who've been out of school for 3 years. Those are rewards. That's what makes my job worthwhile. Everybody's got a different standard. If my boss is willing to send me to training, he's putting investment into me. That matters to me. Policies and practices, for example. Do I have good health care? Do I have an informal work environment? Do I have to go through 6 layers of triplicate to get a damn laptop? That affects it. And finally, work-life balance is different for everybody else. I'll give you an example. I'm not saying this to brag or anything else. This has been about a 70 or 80 hour week for me this week. And you know what? I love it because I love everything I've done this week. Not everybody wants that kind of work life, and that's okay. You pick the profession that allows you to have that because everybody's got a different attitude about that. Some people are happiest when they are working. I hate to say it, but I'm one of those people. I'm at my happiest when I'm working. Some of the other ways we keep top performers. Grow people into management. Give them things to do that are going to let them shine. Give them things that will let them flex their muscles and teach them how to do it. Here's the other trick. We make the biggest mistake in American management by only telling people when they screw up. If all you ever do is tell somebody when they do something wrong, all they learn is how not to make mistakes. They don't learn how to excel. So giving people regular feedback is important. So if we're trying to think about what we're doing, how we're retaining people, well, we want to look at what the jobs look like. Is everybody in the organization, believe me, if everybody at St. Francis University was working 70-hour work weeks like this week, a lot of people aren't going to stay. You need to know that stuff. Are you paying competitively with other groups that do the same thing you do? Are you training your supervisors, for example? What occupations are you seeing high turnover? For example, there's some occupations in an organization that just have high degrees of turnover. If you work at the front line of McDonald's, you're probably going to see a higher turnover rate than a college professor, for example. And also, who's leaving? Here's my reason we track that. Actually, let me ask you that. Why would I want some demographics to know who's leaving my organization? What might that information tell me? Let's say, for example, I look at those demographics, and over the last year, let's say I had 100 people leave my organization, and 85 of them were women. What might that tell me? Should that possibly, what do you think? That might cue me off to a problem?
Like discrimination, maybe.
Exactly right. You might be saying to yourself, why are we having all these women pass through these departments? It might be time to take a look at our policies. It might be time to take a look at who's actually supervising these people and how they're actually running their departments. So we also do this stuff to make sure that we are not being discriminatory as well. So the things that we look at, for example, we want to see, for example, how many people are skipping work on a given day. We can do surveys to find out employee satisfaction. We can do exit interviews. We can do all these things. Guys, here's a question for you, though. When we do exit interviews, when we have people leaving a company, and we ask them to come down to HR for the day, we want to do an exit interview. We want to find out why you're leaving. Are those useful or not? What are your thoughts? I'm getting an odd yes. Why is that useful? You would certainly hope that people are going to be honest. Is there a chance that people are not going to tell the truth on an accident? Joe, you're nodding your head. Why might somebody not tell the truth? Well, it's true. They're basically like, you know what? You guys have mistreated me all this time. Why should I help you now? Is there another reason why people sometimes aren't honest? Think about it for a second. When you go to another job, what do you sometimes need to call your old job for? Some people will basically say, oh, crap, I got this meeting with HR today. I really want to tell them about what the supervisor's saying to me. But I also know I might need this person as a reference, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And that's one of the problems we run into with exit surveys. They don't always give us really good information. Although sometimes people are surprisingly honest too. So then we also have what we can do in terms of management interventions. And that means, for example, we can determine how we're recruiting differently based on the information we're seeing in the exit interviews. We can adjust our compensation to be more market competitive. And finally, we're going to be tracking this stuff to be able to say, are our interventions working? Last year, we had a 25% turnover. This year, we changed our incentive programs. We gave managers more discretion to give rewards for good performers. And our our turnover rate's down to 15%. Maybe we're actually getting something out of this. So again, these are the reasons we do surveys, or to try to determine what the problems are. This is a concept that I love. I can honestly say I've never seen it in practice. It's right out of a text. Is a stay interview. I've never had my boss come to my office and ask me why I haven't left yet. I have not ever had somebody ask me that question. If they did, I would tell them. I have regular conversations with my boss anyway, but I've never, outside of our text, heard it referred to as a stay interview. But exit interviews are very common. We do want to track this stuff, and we do it mainly to make sure that we're spending money in the right places, that we are retaining good performers, and honestly, so that we're not ending up in discriminatory territory by having too many people leaving for all the wrong reasons. And guys, what I'm going to do today, because we have so many folks out through no choice of their own, we're going to do the review on Monday, and that way we have an equal chance for our teams to compete against each other. And with that being said, because you guys have been awesome about being here on time on a Sunday, Friday, it's 20 minutes early. I'm going to put 20 more minutes back in your weekend. Enjoy the rest of you.